To Gloved Up Garage. In this episode, I'm going to be pulling the right fender off the car and hopefully the core support. And I've gone ahead and got the car up in the air. I went ahead and put a jack under that control arm, so I'm going to take the wheel off. And I need to do that in order to pull this inner fender. This plastic inner fender, it's a whole lot easier to get the bolts loose from underneath. I've already got the fuse box loose, so I'll suspend it out of the way, remove these other 3 wires and get them out of the way. And then I need to decide if I'm going to drain that reservoir or just try to set it off to the side somewhere. Now, in the previous video, I talked about the transfer of energy and how it can make things on the opposite side of the car move in comparison to the side that was hit. So if you look at where the fender bolts to the core support, you can see what we call witness marks. And sort of like what was on the subframe, it shows where it was originally bolted, and then now it's in a different location. And it's basically left marks where it was originally bolted. Right here in the core support, you can see there's a kink. It's peaked here in the middle where the hood hinge was, or the hood latch. I went ahead and unbolted it, and then it's down and twisted on this side. Now I went ahead and soaked these bolts that hold it to the frame. It's kind of hard to see down inside of there. I soaked those bolts with some penetrating oil and broke them loose this morning in anticipation of getting this off. I kind of figured it would be tough to get it off, but the little 3/8 Milwaukee impact broke it loose with no problem. So that's a good thing. Now, in order to get the fender off, there's a bracket right here. This rod support comes down, bolts that. And of course, I've got a couple of bolts hold it up to the firewall just like the other side. But to get it started, I need to get the wheel off so that I can get to those fender bolts and the inner fender bolts. So I'm going to try to time lapse this if I can find something that'll hold my phone steady enough while I do it, and let's get going. Turn the heat back on. It got pretty cold in here pretty fast. It's still in the 30s outside. That wiring harness really fought me, and then there was a couple of push pins right there. Those were at the bottom. They kind of go upward into the firewall, and I forgot to pull them out on this side before pulling the fender. But that's it. The fender's off. There's one bolt that's kind of hidden right here. That one slowed me down just a little bit. This is the top bolt that comes in from the top. I got that one out. You can see this bracket, it's a little bit bent too. It's actually kind of leaning towards the passenger side of the vehicle. But this side of the frame definitely looks good. I don't notice anything. Doesn't look like anything's really shifted on the frame itself. That's the radiator mount there. It's kind of hard to tell, but on this side it looks like this cross member is actually pushed to the driver's side. I don't know with 100% certainty that the cross member has moved. Actually looking at the front now, yeah, you can see where it's actually got some aluminum shavings where it's moved quite a bit. It's moved about a 1/4 inch on this side. So yeah, we'll still need to loosen that cross member up, get the front of the frame straightened out, put it all back together again. Now we got the core support. It should just lift up and out of there. There's nothing holding it on. Got all the bolts loose from the fender. There's a wiring harness attached. This large wiring harness. I'll have to kind of lift this up and pull it out, see what's holding that harness in. After that, that's pretty much it. Core support's off. Everything's torn down, and I've made a pretty good list of all the parts that I'm going to need along the way. I know this is kind of a shorter video, but I made a lot of progress. I'm really excited with where I'm at on this project, and I hope to continue along the way. Pretty much all I've got left to do is get the driver's airbag out, the seat belt, and the airbag control module, which is in the middle of the seat, kind of where the console would be. Along the way, I've made a pretty good list of all the parts I'm going to need. I've bagged and tagged all my hardware. So when I find a parts vehicle or locate some parts locally, I'll have everything I need to put the car back together and I'll be able to get all my hardware and stuff out of these bags to go back into place. So it's the next day, and I ran across an awesome deal on Facebook Marketplace. Found a gentleman that was parting out an 03 town car, had a bad air suspension. All the body panels are in really good shape. He pulled all of the body panels off the car for me. He basically had it sitting there ready for me to inspect and look over and make sure everything was in good shape and to my approval, which it was. All of this stuff is really, really good. I'll polish out the headlights. I'll be able to use them, basically paint the inside and the outside of the fenders, the bumper and the hood, the core support, all that stuff. I'll take it apart, paint the inside, just the basic white. The outside will get painted when we do the rest of the car after the doors are repaired. I even got the airbag and the driver's seatbelt that I needed, along with all the ducts, all the little air deflectors and everything, driver's side inner fender, my air box, and the battery box. So I'll have some stuff left over, but these deals, they just don't happen every day. I had to jump on it really, really quick. Started talking to the guy kind of early in the morning, and at 5 o'clock I was on the road heading his direction. So when you're doing a project like this, use every method you can to come across parts. Facebook, Craigslist is still out there, people still use it. Kijiji and some of the other sites are still around, people use those as well. So when you're putting together a rebuilt car like this, obviously I want to keep the cost as low as I possibly can. I'm going to look in every which direction I can. U-pull yards, as I'd mentioned before, and I really couldn't even beat the U-pull prices with what he gave me. Everything you see in front of you, $350, and I honestly could not beat that, even going to a U-pull yard. Being out in the cold all day pulling this stuff, I mean, just a phenomenal deal, and I can't thank him enough. Now that we've got all the sheet metal for the car, the next thing that I'll need to do is start the reassembly process. I won't be able to do that until I get the frame straightened out, and before I can start hanging all this new metal back on the car, I'll need to clean up each of these parts and obviously get them just clean because they're covered in a little bit of road crumb and stuff like that. But I'm also going to cut them in, and what that means is I'm going to base coat them with a white paint to match the vehicle, just like the parts that came off were base coated white. Now I won't go through the process of painting these the same pearl white as the car. The base coat is just the underlying paint to this pearl. This is what's called a 3-stage paint. And over here on the side of the firewall, you can see it's just a white. There's really no pearl mixed in until you get to about here. So the base is just straight white. The mid, or what's called the pearl coat, is got the pearl in it. It's a translucent color. It's kind of like a clear, almost like a milky color when it's mixed up. And it's got your pearls, it's got your metallics in it. Over top of that goes your normal 2 to 3 coats of clear. Just depends upon your materials and how thin you spray your clear. I really won't need to do the pearl coat when it comes to the inside of the fenders, the bottom of the hood, and then that core support that goes across there. It could be done. It would look really nice when it's done. It's just one of those things that you don't need to do when you're putting a car like this back together. If this was going to be a show car and I went through the trouble to smooth out this engine bay and tuck all the wires and make it look really nice under here, yeah, absolutely, I could see going the extra mile and go ahead and pearl and clear coat over top of that on these parts. For this case, in this vehicle, the base coat's going to work out just fine. That'll be the first thing that I need to do before I can start the repair on the doors. I need a good straight fender on here so that I can see exactly how bad this lip is and how much of a dent is right here in this door. Same thing on the other side. Without a fender, I'm just kind of guessing at that line and how far it is. I could eyeball, and I know it's hard to tell from this angle, but the lip is rolled out right here. You can see it looks wider from here to here, and that's because that lip is actually rolled out. So without the fender on there, I've really got nothing to judge other than just wide open space. I want to make sure that I do this the right way, so I've got to put the fender back on. Before I can do the fender, core support's got to go on. Before the core support can go on, I'm going to take all that stuff off, get it cleaned up, and get it painted. So that's pretty much going to be it for this episode on the Lincoln. I definitely appreciate everybody watching. Appreciate all the subscribes and the comments that I'm getting. If this was informative to you, please leave me a like, leave a comment. If you find this interesting and you want to watch this project progress further, Make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you'll be notified when I upload new videos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.